I was 32 years old when my mother sat me at the kids' table, and that was the night everything changed. I remember standing in front of my bedroom mirror that evening, smoothing down the fabric of my new dress. It was a deep emerald green, fitted at the waist, elegant, without being showy. I had spent more than I should have on it, but I wanted to look perfect for the family dinner at Celestine, one of the most expensive restaurants in Portland. My mother had called it a special family celebration, and for once, I thought maybe, just maybe, they were finally going to acknowledge what I had built. My event planning business had just landed its biggest client yet, the Thornton wedding, a $1 million affair that would put my company on the map. I had worked 16-hour days for 3 years to get to this point, building something from nothing, while my siblings coasted on family connections and trust funds. But tonight, I told myself, would be different. Tonight, they would see me. I pulled into the parking lot of Celestine at exactly 7 o'clock. The restaurant glowed like a jewel box, all warm light and floor-to-ceiling windows. I could see my family already gathered inside, and my heart did a little skip. Daniel was there with his wife, Courtney, and Bethany had brought her husband, Marcus. Mom and Dad sat at the head of what looked like a long table, and I could see the glint of crystal and the soft flicker of candlelight. I walked in with my shoulders back and a genuine smile on my face. The hostess greeted me warmly, and I gave my mother's name. That was when I saw her, my mother, gliding toward me with that particular smile she wore when she was about to do something she found amusing. "Nancy, darling, you look lovely," she said, kissing the air beside my cheek. Her perfume was overwhelming, as always. "Come, let me show you to your seat." I followed her through the restaurant, expecting her to lead me to the large table where everyone else sat today, but she walked right past it. My stomach started to sink as we moved toward the back corner of the restaurant, where a smaller table sat tucked away from the main dining area. "Here you are, sweetheart," my mother said, gesturing to the table with a gracious sweep of her hand. I stared at it in disbelief. There were plastic cups decorated with cartoon characters. The menu was a kids' menu featuring chicken fingers and mac and cheese. My nephew Tyler, who was 7, and my niece Sophia, who was 9, were already sitting there, absorbed in their tablets, barely looking up. "Mom," I said slowly, my voice catching in my throat. "What is this?" "Well, we thought it would be nice for you to sit with the children," she said breezily. "They've been asking about their Aunt Nancy, and the adult table is quite full. This way you can keep them company. Isn't that sweet?" I looked back at the adult table. There were clearly 2 empty seats. I could see them from where I stood. Daniel caught my eye and then quickly looked away, suddenly very interested in his wine glass. Bethany was laughing at something Marcus said, her hand on his arm, not even glancing in my direction. "The adult table doesn't look full to me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My mother's smile never wavered. "Oh, Nancy, don't be difficult. We've already arranged the seating. Just sit down and enjoy yourself. The chicken fingers here are supposed to be wonderful." She patted my shoulder and walked away before I could respond, her heels clicking on the polished floor as she returned to the adult table, to the candlelight and the crystal and the wine that cost more per bottle than most people's weekly groceries. I stood there for a long moment, my new dress suddenly feeling ridiculous, my carefully applied makeup like war paint for a battle I had already lost. Tyler looked up at me briefly, his face illuminated by the glow of his game. "Are you going to sit down, Aunt Nancy?" he asked. "You're blocking the light." Saturday, what else could I do? I sat at the kids' table with the plastic cups and the crayons and the paper placemats featuring a word search about farm animals, and I felt something inside me go very, very quiet. It wasn't anger yet. It was worse than anger. It was a stillness, a kind of blank recognition that this was how they saw me. This was how they had always seen me. While Daniel ran Dad's investment firm into the ground and still got quarterly bonuses, while Bethany posted Instagram photos of her entrepreneurial journey that consisted entirely of selling leggings from a multi-level marketing scheme, I had built an actual business. I had clients. I had employees. I had a reputation in this city. And I was sitting at the kids' table. The waiter came by, a young man with kind eyes who looked at the setup and then at me with barely concealed pity. "Can I get you something to drink?" he asked, and I could hear the condescension in his voice, the way he had already dismissed me as someone's babysitter or poor relation. "Water is fine," I said quietly. My phone buzzed in my clutch. A text from Kelsey, my best friend and business partner. "How's the fancy dinner? Hope they're finally treating you like the boss you are." I looked at the message for a long time. Then I looked at the adult table, where my mother was holding court, where Daniel was ordering another expensive bottle of wine, where Bethany was showing off photos of her latest vacation to Cabo. None of them looked at me. Not once. I picked up my phone and texted Kelsey back. "Change of plans. I need that dinner party tonight." We had talked about getting together later in the week, just the 2 of us, to celebrate the Thornton contract. But suddenly I could not spend another minute in this restaurant, at this table, pretending that any of this was acceptable. I stood up. Tyler looked at me with mild interest. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Somewhere I'm actually wanted," I said, and I was surprised by how calm my voice sounded. I walked past the adult table without stopping. I could feel their eyes on me, could sense the sudden hush in their conversation, but I did not turn around. I walked through that beautiful restaurant with my head high and my heart pounding, and I did not look back. I was almost to the parking lot when my phone started ringing. "Mom," I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. I declined the call and got into my car. By the time I pulled out of the parking lot, I had 7 missed calls and a dozen text messages. I did not read them. I drove straight to Bruno's wine bar, where Kelsey was already waiting for me, her face a mask of confusion and concern. "What happened?" she asked as I slid into the booth across from her. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "They sat me at the kids' table," I said, and saying it out loud made it real in a way that standing there had not. My mother, at a family dinner at Celestine, sat me at the kids' table, with Tyler and Sophia, with plastic cups and a kids' menu. Kelsey's mouth fell open. "You're joking." "I wish I were." She leaned back in her seat, shaking her head in disbelief. "Nancy, that's insane. You're a successful business owner. You're 32 years old. What possible reason could she have?" "The adult table was full," I said, mimicking my mother's airy tone. Except it wasn't. There were empty seats. I could see them. Mauricio, the owner of Bruno's, came over with a bottle of wine. "This is on the house," he said gently, looking at my face. "Whatever happened, you look like you need it." I could have kissed him. Instead, I let him pour 2 generous glasses, and I took a long drink before I tried to explain the unexplainable. My phone was still ringing. I pulled it out and saw the notifications piling up. 12 missed calls now, 23 text messages. "Mom, where did you go? This is very rude." "Dad, your mother is upset. Come back right now." "Daniel, way to make everything about you. Grow up." "Bethany, you're ruining the whole evening. Mom is crying. Thanks a lot." I read them aloud to Kelsey, and with each one, I felt something shifting inside me. It was not guilt. It was not shame. It was clarity, cold and bright and undeniable. "They're acting like you committed some kind of crime," Kelsey said, her voice rising with indignation. "Nancy, you left a dinner where you were being humiliated. That's not making it about you. That's basic self-respect." "I should have said something," I said, but even as I said it, I knew it was not true. I had said something, hundreds of times over the years. I had pointed out the inequity, the favoritism, the casual cruelty. And every time, I was told I was too sensitive, too dramatic, making a big deal out of nothing. "You've been saying something your whole life," Kelsey said, echoing my thoughts. "They just haven't been listening." "Nancy, look at what you've built. You have a thriving business. You just landed the Thornton wedding, which is going to change everything for you. You're successful, you're talented, you're kind." And they sat you at the kids' table. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Aunt Helen, my mother's sister. Unlike the rest of my family, Aunt Helen had always been in my corner. "Your mother just called me in tears saying you stormed out of dinner. I got the real story from Courtney. I'm proud of you. You're a grown woman with a successful career. You didn't deserve to be treated like that." I showed the text to Kelsey, and she nodded emphatically. "See, not everyone thinks you're crazy." "Courtney told Aunt Helen?" I said, surprised. Courtney usually kept her head down when it came to family dynamics. Another text came through, this one from Courtney herself. "I'm sorry I didn't say anything. That was wrong of me. For what it's worth, not everyone agreed with the seating arrangement." I stared at the message for a long time. It was something I supposed. Not much, but something. Kelsey reached across the table and took my hand. "Nancy, listen to me. You've spent your whole life trying to prove yourself to these people. You've worked twice as hard as your siblings for half the recognition. You've been there for every family emergency, every holiday, every obligation, and they cut you out of the family when they put you at that kid's table." That was the message. "You're not one of us. You're not important enough to sit with the adults." Tears were streaming down my face now, and I did not bother to wipe them away. I just wanted them to see me. I whispered. "I know," Kelsey said, "but maybe it's time to stop waiting for that. Maybe it's time to see yourself the way the rest of us see you." My phone rang again. "Mom." I looked at Kelsey, and she nodded. I declined the call and sent a text instead. "I won't be coming to Sunday brunch. I need some space to think." The response was immediate and volcanic. My phone started buzzing so continuously that I had to silence it. When I finally looked at the messages, they ranged from my mother's guilt trips to my father's disappointment to Daniel's accusations that I was being selfish and childish. "They're really doubling down," Kelsey observed, reading over my shoulder. "They always do," I said. And for the first time, I felt something other than the desperate need to fix it, to apologize, to make everything okay. I felt anger. Clean, clarifying anger. I turned off my phone completely and raised my glass to Kelsey. To the kids' table, I said, and to never sitting there again. We drank to that, and then we ordered the most expensive items on the menu and talked about everything except my family. We talked about the Thornton wedding, about Kelsey's new apartment, about the trip to Portugal we had been planning for years and never taken. We talked until Bruno's closed, and when I got home to my apartment, I felt lighter than I had in years. The next week was chaos. My family called relentlessly. They showed up at my office. They sent flying monkeys in the form of distant relatives and family friends, all telling me I was overreacting, that I needed to forgive and forget, that family was family. But I was busy. The Thornton wedding was in 2 weeks, and every detail had to be perfect. I threw myself into work with a focus I had never quite managed before, and I realized it was because I was not spending half my mental energy worrying about what my family thought of me. Caroline Thornton, the bride, was a dream to work with. Her mother Patricia was more demanding, but in a way that pushed me to be better rather than tearing me down. They appreciated my ideas. They listened when I spoke. They treated me like a professional. It was such a stark contrast to my own family that it was almost laughable. On Thursday, 5 days after the Celestine incident, my mother called from a number I did not recognize. I answered without thinking. "Finally," she said. "Nancy, this is ridiculous. We need to talk about this." "I don't think we do," I said calmly. I was at my desk, reviewing seating charts for the Thornton reception, and I did not put down my pen. "You embarrassed this entire family?" My mother said, her voice sharp. "Walking out like that, ignoring our calls. Your father is furious." "I'm sorry you're upset," I said. "Not sorry at all." "But I was the one who was embarrassed, Mom. You sat me at the kids' table." "Oh, for heaven's sake, it was just a seating arrangement. You're making it into some kind of drama." "It was a message," I said, "and I received it." There was a pause. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I understand where I stand in this family, and I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt." "Nancy." "I need to go," I said. "I have a client meeting." I hung up before she could respond, and my hands were shaking, but I felt good, strong. That Sunday, when I should have been at the family brunch, I stayed home and worked. My phone rang constantly, but I let every call go to voicemail. I ordered Thai food and ate it in my pajamas and felt absolutely no guilt about it. On Monday, my parents showed up at my apartment. I almost did not answer the door, but I knew they would just keep coming back. I opened it to find them standing there looking stern and disappointed, exactly as I had expected. "We need to talk," my father said, pushing past me into the apartment. My mother followed, her eyes scanning my living room with that critical gaze I knew so well. "This place is a mess," she said, even though it was not. "What do you want?" I asked, not offering them seats. "We want to know what's gotten into you," my father said. "This behavior is unacceptable. You're acting like a spoiled child." The irony was so thick I almost laughed. "I'm acting like a spoiled child? Dad, I'm 32 years old, I run a successful business, and Mom sat me at the kids' table at a family dinner. How is asking to be treated with basic respect childish?" "You're blowing this completely out of proportion," my mother said. "It was just a practical decision. The adult table was full. There were 2 empty seats. I saw them. Well, we were expecting other guests." "Who never showed up," I finished. "Mom, just admit it. You don't see me the way you see Daniel and Bethany. You never have." My mother's face flushed. "That's not true. We love all our children equally." "Love and respect are different things," I said quietly. "When was the last time either of you asked me about my business? About my work? Do you even know what the Thornton wedding is?" They both stared at me blankly. "It's a $1 million event," I said. "The biggest contract my company has ever landed. It's going to be featured in Portland Bride magazine. But you don't know that, because you've never asked. Daniel can crash Dad's investment firm into the ground, and you give him a bonus. Bethany can fail at her 5th multi-level marketing scheme, and you comfort her and tell her she's a warrior. But I build something real, and you sit me with the 7-year-olds. "Now you're just being dramatic," my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I need you both to leave," I said. "I need time to figure out what a healthy relationship with you looks like, and that might mean not seeing you for a while." My mother's eyes went wide. "You can't be serious." "I am completely serious. If you can't be part of this family, then maybe you shouldn't be included in family matters at all," my mother said, her voice turning cold and threatening. "That means holidays, gatherings, everything. You'll be on your own." I looked at her for a long moment, and I felt something in my chest release, like a knot I had been carrying for decades finally coming undone. "If that's how you want it, then, okay," I said. "Nancy," my father started, but I opened the door. "Please leave." They left, my mother throwing one last look over her shoulder. "You'll regret this," she said. "I don't think I will," I replied, and I closed the door behind them. I stood in my empty apartment and cried, but they were not tears of regret. They were tears of grief for the family I had always wanted and would never have, mixed with a strange, bubbling relief that I could finally stop pretending. After that, something shifted. I stopped checking my phone constantly. I stopped jumping every time I saw a message from a family member. I focused on my work, on the Thornton wedding, on building the life I actually wanted instead of the life I thought would finally earn my family's approval. The wedding was on a Saturday in late October, and it was perfect. The weather cooperated with that crisp, golden autumn day that Oregon does so well. The ceremony was at the Thornton estate, which sprawled across 5 acres of manicured gardens and rolling lawns. I had spent weeks transforming the property into something out of a fairy tale. White roses and eucalyptus arrangements lined the aisle. String lights were woven through the trees, ready to glow as evening fell. The reception tent was a cathedral of fabric and flowers, with tables set in gold and ivory, centerpieces that had taken my team 3 days to create. Everything went flawlessly. The ceremony made people cry. The food was exquisite. The band had everyone dancing. And I stood to the side, watching it all come together, feeling a sense of pride I had never quite experienced before. Caroline found me as the evening was winding down, her face flushed with happiness. "Nancy, this is perfect. More than perfect. You made every dream I had come true." Her mother, Patricia, appeared beside her. "We've already given your card to at least a dozen people," she said. "You're going to be booked solid for the next 2 years." She was not exaggerating. By the time I got home that night, I had 27 new business cards in my bag, 6 consultation requests, and 9 new booking inquiries in my email. By the next day, that number had grown to 15. But the real coup came on Monday morning, when I received a call from Gregory Thornton himself, Caroline's father, and a member of the board of directors for half a dozen major Portland companies. "Miss Walker," he said in that smooth, authoritative voice of someone used to being listened to, "I wanted to thank you personally for the extraordinary work you did on Caroline's wedding. My wife and I were thoroughly impressed." "Thank you, Mr. Thornton. It was my pleasure. I'm calling because I'd like to discuss a business opportunity. My company hosts several major events each year, and we're always looking for top-tier planners. Would you be interested in submitting a proposal?" I almost dropped the phone. The Thornton Corporation was one of the largest employers in Portland. Getting their contract would not just be good for business. It would be transformative. "I would be very interested," I said, trying to keep my voice professional. "Excellent. I'll have my assistant send you the details. I look forward to working with you." I hung up and sat in stunned silence for a full minute before I let out a scream of pure joy that probably terrified my neighbors. Kelsey came running into my office. "What? What happened?" I told her, and she screamed too, and we jumped around like children until we were both out of breath and laughing. "This is it," Kelsey said. "Nancy, this is what you've been working toward. This is huge." It was huge. It was everything. That afternoon, I signed a lease on a new office space, something I had been putting off because I was not sure we were ready. But we were ready. We were more than ready. The space was in a beautiful building downtown, with high ceilings and big windows and room to grow. I spent the next week moving in, hiring 2 new assistants, upgrading our equipment. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was building something that was entirely mine, something that no one could diminish or take away. My phone still rang sometimes with calls from my family, but they were less frequent now. I did not answer them. I was too busy living my life. And then, 3 weeks after the Thornton wedding, my mother showed up at my new office. I was in the middle of a meeting with Denise Howard from the Portland Arts Foundation, discussing their annual gala, when my new assistant Emma knocked on the door with an apologetic expression. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, "but there's someone here to see you. She says she's your mother." Denise looked at me with raised eyebrows. "We can reschedule if you need to deal with a family matter." "No," I said firmly. "We're almost finished here. Can you tell her I'll be available in 15 minutes? Emma nodded and disappeared. We wrapped up the meeting. I walked Denise out with promises to send her a proposal by Friday, and then I steeled myself and went to the reception area. My mother stood by the window, looking out at the city. She turned when she heard me approach, and I saw surprise flicker across her face as she took in the space. The sleek furniture, the framed photos of events we had planned, the professional design that screamed success. "This is quite the upgrade," she said. "Thank you. What can I do for you, Mom?" She looked uncomfortable, which was unusual for her. My mother was never uncomfortable. She was the one who made other people uncomfortable. "I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving," she said. "The family wants you there. The kids are asking about you." "The kids have my number," I said. "They're welcome to call me anytime." "Nancy, this has gone on long enough. It's time to move past this and come back to the family." I looked at her, this woman who had raised me, who had shaped so much of who I was, for better and worse, and I felt nothing but a mild sadness for what could have been. "Mom, I'm not coming to Thanksgiving. I'm not coming to Christmas. I'm not coming to any family event until you can acknowledge what happened and why it was wrong." I didn't do anything wrong, she said, but her voice was uncertain now. You sat me at the kids' table because you don't see me as an equal to Daniel and Bethany. You never have. And until that changes, until you can treat me with the respect I deserve, I can't be around you. So you're just going to throw away your family? Everything we've given you? You haven't given me anything, I said, and saying it felt like liberation. I built this myself, every bit of it, and I'm not going to accept less than what I deserve anymore. If you can't respect me and my choices, then yes, I'm done. My mother's face went hard. You'll regret this, she said, just like she had the last time. Maybe, I said, but I don't think so. She left without another word, and I went back to my office and got back to work. Thanksgiving came and went. I spent it at Kelsey's apartment with a group of friends, and it was one of the best Thanksgivings I had ever had. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no carefully avoiding topics that might set someone off. Just good food and good company and genuine affection. I'm grateful for a lot this year, I said when we went around the table sharing what we were thankful for, but mostly I'm grateful for learning that I don't have to make myself smaller to fit into someone else's expectations. Kelsey raised her glass. To Nancy, who finally learned to take up space. Everyone drank to that, and I felt a warmth in my chest that had nothing to do with the wine. The fallout in my family was, predictably, dramatic. My parents became increasingly isolated as their children started to see cracks in the perfect family facade. Daniel and Courtney separated that December. Courtney called me to thank me for showing her that it was possible to stand up to unrealistic expectations. I've been watching you, she said. The way you've set boundaries, the way you've built your life on your terms. It made me realize I've been living Daniel's life, not mine. Bethany's marriage started to show strain too. She called me once, late at night, crying about how she could never live up to what Mom and Dad wanted from her, how exhausting it was to keep trying. Then stop trying, I said gently. Bethany, you don't owe them your happiness. She did not understand yet, but maybe she would someday. As for me, I was thriving. The Thornton Corporation contract came through, and with it came more opportunities than I could have imagined. By Christmas, I had hired a full staff of 8 people. We had moved into an even larger office space. My calendar was booked 18 months out. I spent Christmas Eve at a charity event I had planned for the Portland Children's Hospital, watching sick kids light up at the winter wonderland we had created in the hospital atrium. I spent Christmas Day volunteering at a soup kitchen with Kelsey, and then went home to my apartment, where I curled up with a good book and felt completely at peace. My phone stayed silent. My family had finally gotten the message. In January, I got an email from Aunt Helen. I'm proud of you. It said, it takes courage to choose yourself. Your mother is miserable, but that's not your responsibility. Keep living your beautiful life. I printed that email and put it on my desk, where I could see it every day. February brought the Portland Arts Foundation Gala, which was a massive success. March brought a corporate retreat for a Fortune 500 company. April brought 3 weddings in one weekend, and I managed to pull them all off without a hitch. And through it all, I felt lighter, freer, more myself than I had ever been. I was not sitting at the kids' table anymore. I was building my own table, and I got to choose who sat at it. One Saturday in late spring, I was at my office catching up on paperwork when Emma buzzed me. There's a Courtney Walker here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's personal. I was surprised, but I told Emma to send her in. Courtney looked different than the last time I had seen her. Thinner, tired, but also somehow more present. More real. I'm sorry to just drop by, she said, but I wanted to talk to you in person. I owe you an apology. You already apologized, I said, at Celestine. I did, but it wasn't enough. Nancy, I should have said something that night. I should have stood up for you. Instead, I sat there and let them humiliate you, and that was wrong. I gestured for her to sit. Why didn't you say something? Because I was scared, she said simply. I was scared of rocking the boat, of making waves, of being the one who caused problems. But watching you walk away that night, watching you choose yourself even when it was hard, it made me realize I had been choosing wrong for a long time. Is that why you left Daniel? She nodded. That was part of it. But mostly it was realizing that I was living a life that made everyone else happy except me. Just like you were. The difference is you were brave enough to stop. It didn't feel brave, I admitted. It felt terrifying. Brave things usually do. She paused. I wanted you to know that not everyone in that family believed your mother's version of events. Some of us saw what really happened. And some of us are trying to do better. It was not absolution, but it was something. It was acknowledgement. And maybe that was enough. After Courtney left, I sat at my desk for a long time, thinking about everything that had changed in the past 8 months. I had lost my family, or at least the version of my family I had been clinging to. But I had gained something more valuable, myself. My business was thriving beyond my wildest dreams. I had genuine friendships with people who valued me. I had self-respect. I had peace. And I had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to make yourself smaller for people who will never appreciate you anyway. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to Kelsey. "Dinner tonight? My treat. I have news." Her response came immediately. "Always. What's the news?" I smiled as I typed my response. "I'm happy, really, truly happy, and I wanted to celebrate that with someone who helped me get here." That evening, Kelsey and I sat at a corner table at Bruno's, the same place I had fled to on that awful night 8 months ago. Mauricio came over personally to take our order, and he smiled when he saw us. "You look different," he said to me. "Good different." "I feel different," I said. "Better." "To better," Kelsey said, raising her glass. "To better," I echoed, and we drank to new beginnings, to chosen family, to the courage it takes to walk away from what hurts you and toward what heals you. I never did go back to those family dinners. I never sat at my mother's table again, kids or otherwise. And while there were moments when I felt the ache of that loss, of the family I had wanted but never really had, those moments grew fewer and farther between, because I had built my own family now. I had built my own life. And at my table, everyone had a seat, everyone was valued, everyone was seen, including me, especially me. Sometimes people ask me if I regret walking out of that restaurant, if I wish I had handled things differently, and I always tell them the same thing. That night at Celestine, when my mother sat me at the kids' table, she was giving me a message. She was telling me exactly where I stood in her hierarchy, exactly how much my accomplishments and my feelings mattered to her, and for once in my life, I listened. I heard what she was really saying, beneath the excuses and the dismissiveness and the casual cruelty. And I made a choice. I chose me. And that choice, difficult as it was, painful as it was, changed everything. Because once you stop making yourself smaller to fit into someone else's vision of who you should be, once you stop apologizing for taking up space, once you stop seeking validation from people who will never give it, you become free. And freedom, I discovered, looks a lot like sitting at your own table, surrounded by people who love you for exactly who you are. No plastic cups, no kids' menus, no condescension, just respect and love and the understanding that you are enough, exactly as you are. That's the table I choose now. That's the family I choose. And I have never been happier.